And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Rayan Butt, who writes, "Hey, John, in an interview with Variety, Alfred Molina, who is awesome, revealed that he will be reprising his role as the same Doc Ock from Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 in Spider-Man No Way Home. He also stated that CGI will be used to de-age him to about the same age his character was in 2004. Although this excited me at first, I hope his character's redemption arc in Spider-Man 2 isn't gone back by Jon Watts and company. What are your thoughts?" All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, so this came out on Friday, Rob, as I was nearing the tail end of the John Campea Show on Friday, but this news kind of came out. Now, we've known for a while, and we've been talking about the fact that, you know, the universe was turned upside down when we found out that Jamie Foxx was coming back as Electro. We then later heard official confirmation that Alfred Molina was coming back to reprise his role as Doc Ock. Now, this left several questions lingering in the air, such as, are these going to be different variants of the characters that we've seen before? Jamie Foxx, for instance, has already, implied that his, this new Electro is going to look different than the other Electro, so we just kind of assume for the same for Doc Ock. However, Alfred Molina was just being interviewed, and he said some pretty surprising things. This comes to us from the folks over at Variety, who write, "It was wonderful," Molina said. "It was very interesting going back after 17 years. F everything for this, that Spider-Man 2 was 17 years ago. I still can't wrap my head around that. It was very interesting going back after 17 years to play the same role, given that in the intervening years, I now have two chins, a waddle, crow's feet, and a slightly dodgy lower back. When the actor asked Jon Watts, the director of No Way Home, how the movie would bring Doc Ock back, since, as he pointed out, I died, Molina said that the director told him, in this universe, no one really dies, because, of course, it's the Marvel fake death universe. In their early conversations, Molina said that Watts told him that the movie will pick up Doc Ock's story from that moment in the river in Spider-Man 2, which in a franchise that includes multiverses, time traveling, and divergent timelines seems plausible enough. Now, he also went on to say that, in talking about how to make him look different, he brought up that concern, said, look, I'm 17 years older. And Watts said to him, hey, didn't you see what we did to Robert Downey Jr. in that thing? Didn't you see what we did to Michael Douglas? There's no problem. We're going to be able to digitally de-age you. Now, of course, the fascinating part about this is the fact that it seems like he's confirmed that this is the same Doc Ock, and something's going to happen when we see him in the dying moments of Spider-Man 2, that he's going to be picked up right from there. Something's going to happen. A portal will open. I don't know what they're going to do. Now, there is one thing to point out, though, that maybe that might not be what they're doing. Because one of the things that it says here, it says, Molina said in their earliest conversations, okay? In their early conversations, Molina said Watts told him was going to pick up where Doc Ock left off in Spider-Man 2. Now, so that may have changed by now. Maybe that was the initial idea. Maybe they changed it. For now, let's go with this at face value, that this is going to be the same Dr. Octavius that we got in Spider-Man 2, right from that moment of his death, now coming back into another Spider-Man. Rob, the ramifications of this and how far-reaching this could mean for what we are actually getting in Spider-Man No Way Home is countless. It's countless. Does it mean it's going to be the same Jamie Foxx, even though he's implied that it wouldn't be? Or maybe it's a different Electro from a completely different timeline universe. It sounds like this could get a whole lot of crazy, like a whole lot of nuts. Whatever, I just love, Doc Ock is one of the best movie comic book villains of all time. I'm not saying he's one of the best comic book villains of all time, but one of the best comic book movie villains of all time. I mean, partially because of Molina and his performance, I think Spider-Man 2 for a period of time could have been considered the greatest comic book movie of all time. It was fantastic, and he was great in it. So I don't know, Rob, you hear this whole thing. How do you break it down? What stands out to you the most, and what's your overall reaction to this?
The thing I thought about is that the J. Jonah Jameson that we saw in Spider-Man Far From Home has to be the same one as well. Because why wouldn't he be? And, I don't know what the multiverse of madness has in store for us, but Spider-Man No Way Home comes out before that. So I think we're seeing all these things being teed up for a huge fun romp through the Marvel multiverse. And I'm like, wow, does that mean all of these? Like, we are going to get the real Tobey Maguire Spider-Man or the real Andrew Garfield Spider-Man? J. Jonah Jameson is real, that there is it's funny. I started watching the J.K. Simmons show Counterpart.
I want to see that so bad. I never got around to it.
I watched some of it, but it was cursory. I don't know why. It's so good. And I'm thinking, how interesting, and John, I just think that the ramifications of this are pretty exciting, because basically what they've done, or what they're doing, is they're incorporating all of these other iterations of the movies into the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Okay, guys, and we appear to be back. Sorry, YouTube inexplicably just sort of froze up there, and we had to go in there and restart the whole damn thing, but we are back. Apparently, the power broker did not like the things that we were saying and decided to pull the plug on us, but we're back. F the power broker. That's right. You heard me say it. And we're back. Anyway, we're going to back up just a little bit here. Rob, I'm going to ask you to, sorry to do this to you, but I'm going to ask you to go over the whole thing again. We were just talking about the whole thing about Doc Ock returning. And I want to give you a chance to make sure, because I think a bunch of it may have got lost because of that YouTube freeze. But I want to give you a chance again. Your thoughts on whole Doc Ock. What stands out to you, and where do you think this is all leading?
Well, here's what I think is pretty cool. With Alfred Molina confirming that it is, in fact, the same Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, I think the ramifications to that are that the J. Jonah Jameson that we saw at the end of Far From Home is indeed the same J. Jonah Jameson. It opens the possibility of turning all of these other iterations of Marvel characters, such as the entire Sam Raimi, the Andrew Garfield, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, are now incorporated into the MCU. Now, I don't know if that's true for the X-Men and Ghost Rider. I don't know if we're going to see Nicolas Cage show up as Ghost Rider, although that could be kind of cool. But I think that it really shows, it's very forward thinking. And again, John, I've always said it harks back to the comic books themselves. There's the multiverse. We know both DC and Marvel has a version of that. And I think what's really interesting is the idea that they're acknowledging that this previous work exists in some other multiverse. These movies have now been validated. So when you watch the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you can do a rewatch of the, say, Raimi Spider-Man, and it's all part of the same continuum. And I like that. I think that's pretty neat, that all of it's part of the same expanded multiverse. And I think that's actually, I never thought of it this way. I never thought anything like this would ever happen. I know DC's been talking about it. Today, by the way, is the first day of shooting on The Flash, which is something on this show we've been talking about for 3 years that we never thought was going to happen. But it's really cool, I think, that they're doing this, and the possibilities for the ramifications for the MCU, it's pretty extraordinary.
Okay, first of all, it's not the same J. Jonah Jameson. Come on, because I mean, there was no implication that, because the J. Jonah Jameson in that post-credit scene has been there the whole time, and he looks different. This is a different J. Jonah Jameson.
I don't think so,
dude. Because you're suggesting that out of nowhere. Pooh, hey, how did I get here? What's going on? Hey guys, you've never heard of me. My name's J. Jonah Jameson. This is a Doc Ock that's being pulled in, obviously, from a different universe, so it's not the same one. I don't think there's any suggestion there, but I agree with everything else you said. I mean, the ramifications of this and how far reaching. Now, Kevin Feige did say that this is part of one continuous story that we're going to get with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And I've said for a while, so Rob, tell me what you think of this. I've said for a while that I think that Multiverse of Madness is going, and I said this a long time ago, that I think Multiverse of Madness, the whole idea of Multiverse of Madness is going to be that Doctor Strange needs to shut the whole multiverse thing down. That the whole multiverse thing and the crossover thing is threatening reality itself. We've seen this sort of thing played with in the comics before. Is like threatening all of reality itself, and it's going to be about Doctor Strange shutting that down. I don't know. Hearing Molina's words here, What do you think about that theory of mine? Or do you think they're going to use Doctor Strange just to blow it up even more? Or do you think, like me, they're going to use Doctor Strange to kind of shut it all down? What do you think they're going to do?
Well, I think whatever's happening, reality is obviously being threatened, hence the title Multiverse of Madness. But even if they shut off our reality, it still exists. There still is the multiverse. It's not like it's going to go away. I don't think they're going to do a Crisis on Infinite Earths thing and collapse the universes into one. But I do think I think the ramifications are a lot of fun. I think they're going to leave the idea of the multiverse out there. I mean, they certainly left it out there with the Into the Spider-Verse, and I think that they might do that here as well, because I just think it's kind of cool, and I don't think they're going to let it dominate the MCU going forward. But as I said, I think it's kind of nice that you can now consider all of these different Marvel properties, which, by the way, are now, aside from Spider-Man, like the X-Men, Daredevil, Elektra. Not that Elektra is very good, but they've all now been folded into, via the Fox merger, into the multiverse of Marvel, so they can control all that stuff. And I like that. I think it's kind of cool.
All right, the question here is, guys, for you. What do you think about this? I mean, now, we don't know if they're going to follow through with this in the movie, but Molina says, at least in the early conversations he had with the director of Spider-Man No Way Home, that the idea was to pick up Doc Ock right from the moment of when he died in the one universe and bring him over there. Maybe they changed it in the, in the foreseeable, the recent past. Maybe all that time that has passed, Jon Watts changed his mind. But if they do go through with this, what do you think about this move, and what do you think the implications are? Jump on down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. Okay, guys.